Welcome back to this special two-part episode as we continue the incredible journey of Rebecca and Ellie. We concluded part 1 with Rebecca overcoming staggering obstacles in adopting Ellie and bracing for an immigration battle to leave Ghana for Chicago. We will pick up the story as Rebecca begins to fight a 4-year immigration process so that Ellie can receive proper medical care. Remember to head over to our website, goshout.love now, and pick up your worthy t-shirt and other items to support these two awesome gals. As always, thanks for listening and shouting love with us.
So I wasn't going to take a 4-year immigration fight, and so I contacted Illinois Senator Dick Durbin and through a friend, and I said, "Can you help us, please?" And he said, "Duh, this is what I do. This is why I exist as a senator, to help on behalf of the constituents." And so he said, "Let me see what I can do." And here's a kid who he's never met. He's standing up for an orphan child 7,000 miles away across the world. Yeah. And me, just like some random person who lives in Illinois, like,
there's not much of political capital there.
No, and it wasn't, I could tell from the minute, he wasn't doing it as a political stunt.
Did you get to speak with him directly?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's awesome.
Through email, but, I've never met him. One day, Ellie will meet him, and it'll be really cool. But his whole staff was like, "Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to figure out how we can make this happen." And we went through the proper, USCIS and immigration channels, but they pushed it along through every step of the way. And we finally got to the last stage, and he said, "I'm going to call somebody and get this expedited so you can be home this week." And after 4 years of me living in Ghana, not seeing my family for 4 years, not eating any American food, fighting for Ellie's life every single day, for him to say next week.
Did you believe him?
No, never. I didn't believe him until I still don't believe we're in America, and here I'm sitting on my couch in my house. I never truly, after all of 3.5 years of fighting, never thought that day would ever come. I never thought I could get on a plane to the U.S. with my daughter because we were in this perpetual cycle of denials, of sicknesses, of pneumonia, of sepsis, of, all of these things.
You had culture, law, and health.
Everything was against us, the two of us, and somehow we stayed together. If I would not have survived Ghana without Ellie, and Ellie would not have survived Ghana without me. We arrived in the U.S. October 7th, 2017, so just a couple days past a year, and I saw my family, our family for the first time, and our friends met us at the airport, and it just felt like a complete blur. And then she had her first doctor's appointment 2 days later, and it was at Comer, and she'd gotten a lot of diagnoses added to her list, and then she did an EEG. We found out she had epilepsy because she had no seizures prior to that. We found out that she has drug-resistant epilepsy. We find out this whole polymicrogyria gets added to it. I mean, her diagnosis list came 10 miles long, and her neurologist walks in one day and looks at me and says, "If I saw this MRI and then saw Ellie, there's no correlation. I would never believe that this MRI is the child sitting in front of me, because this MRI, this child should be in a vegetative state at the minimum." And
just based on the MRI, not even considering her history of malnutrition and
malnutrition and being, orphaned, none of it. Trauma, none of it. She said this child shouldn't be alive. And then Ellie gets up and, walks with me out of the room. Wow. And that's kind of been our story of doctors are amazed by her. Her doctors at Shriners have no idea how she's doing what she's doing. And so they're kind of baffled because they're like, we aren't seeing this in any book. There's no case like Ellie. There's nobody like Ellie in the whole world. And she gets to be with me here.
Oh, man.
And now she's an American citizen.
Well, Seth, our videographer and storyteller, and his wife, as well as myself and my wife, have both had the pleasure of fostering to adopt here in the States. And it's a very frustrating and yet rewarding process. And to be able to choose to love a child is a remarkable thing. But our stories are nothing compared to the battle that you went through to receive this greatest honor of being Ellie's mom. And that's just, I just can't imagine. It's so powerful. And, I will stand by that the parents that we get to talk to as part of Go Shout Love are the bravest and most courageous and loving people that I've ever met. They embody what love is. But almost all of them they've adapted to a situation that was handed to them, which is noble. But I kind of believe that God gives us the grace that we need for the day that we need it, you know. But the fact that you chose this path is incredibly powerful to me, and just I don't know. I'm just honored just to have this conversation because and inspired to do more with my life because it's easy is so far. I mean, there's so many easy things that we can do in our day to day, but the things that matter the most, the things that that bring fulfillment and that are worthwhile when all is said and done are the hard things. And your life has embodied choosing the hard things for the bigger purpose, and to see Ellie thriving as she is right now is incredible.
Loving Ellie is easy. She's so easy to love. Everybody loves her the second they meet her. Yeah. And that's what makes it worth it. I wake up every single morning and somehow have the renewed strength to not even get through the day, to, thrive through the day and to dance with Ellie through the day and to spin her around in her wheelchair. Like, at the end of the day, I'm exhausted, but every single morning I wake up and feel completely, completely refreshed. And that's what's got me through 4 years. Yeah. And I don't like to say got me through. I mean, we have bloomed through 4 years, We aren't just surviving, but we are thriving. And Ellie is thriving every single day.
That's awesome. Couple things. First of all, give us a little bit of her. Recently, she just had a surgery, and was it September?
Let me think back. August.
August. Okay. So this will be listened to in January. Yeah. So in September or in August, she had surgery where she had both hips.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So many kids with spastic cerebral palsy, their hips are being pulled out of socket because of those tight muscles. And their hips in infanthood don't form correctly, a lot of them. So at some point, their hips completely come out of socket or start to come out of socket, and that can really cause a lot of pain. It can cause problems with their walk. So I first saw Ellie her left leg was becoming shorter than her right, which was very odd for me. So we did an x-ray and found that the top of her femur was being pushed through her hip socket. And there was nothing anybody could really do about it. That was just kind of what happened. And so it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And her doctors at Shriners. And I said, it's time to do surgery because this is going to give her the best chance of walking with assistance or without assistance, and live a life without pain, because that is painful. It happens chronically, so it's not like, your hip pops out of socket, ouch. It happens slowly. So she wasn't in any daily pain, but as you get older, it would have probably caused her daily pain. So in August, at the beginning of August, she went through an 8-hour surgery where both of the tops of her femurs were cut and screwed into her hip sockets. It sounds really bad, but it has been incredible for her. So, and her entire hip sockets were reconstructed. So they put pieces of bone at the top of her sockets.
So she's probably more comfortable.
Completely.
Yeah.
That was an 8-hour surgery, and then they expected her to be in the hospital for a week. We left after 72 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And the recovery is 6 weeks long, and she wasn't allowed to sit up past 45 degrees, which is very reclined.
Right.
Her knees were straight. She had a pillow between her legs. She was basically in a soft cast from her hips down. She couldn't move. She couldn't sit up. She had to lay down for 6 whole weeks. And she was a champion through those 6 weeks of, when we went in the car, she had to lay in the back seat with a special harness. She couldn't be in her wheelchair. She couldn't go to school. She couldn't, do all of these things that she normally did. But she said, I can't do these things, but you know what? I can do all of these other things. So during those 6 weeks, she learned how to use the eye gaze to communicate. She started eating by mouth. She gained so many OT skills. She can now reach out with both of her hands. She can reach above her head. She found her love of penguins. Like, we had so much fun in those 6 weeks. And I always say we are the best at making lemons into lemonade. And that's like what we do as a family. The lemon was hip surgery and this, the pain that came with surgery and this recovery. But we made some really sweet lemonade out of it because we had lots of fun. And that's how Ellie views every situation. Like, Oh, I have to be admitted to the hospital overnight to monitor my epilepsy. Oh, but I get to see my favorite nurses and they come and play with me. So like Ellie does not see anything as a negative in her life. She makes everything into the positive, which is a lot of like heart conviction for me because if Ellie's doing that, I need to do that too. And you can't have a bad day around Ellie ever because she makes every day so much fun. That's awesome. Now after we're now 2 months out of hip surgery, and she's doing things that she was never able to do before hip surgery. So it just reassured me that it was the best choice for her. And so she really, just did 40 hours of therapy in 2 weeks. The sky
is the limit.
Yes, for Ellie. There is no limit.
You're just dreaming that as she continues to grow and get stronger, that hopefully she'll even be able to walk unassisted again, right? Is she close to doing that?
If Ellie wants to do it, she's going to do it. I, as a parent, don't put any expectations on her because I think then she can embody that and say, my mom is expecting me to walk. My mom is expecting me to talk. And I'm a failure if I don't do those. So I say to Ellie, you are perfect the way you are. You are brave and strong and capable in everything that you do. If you want to go into the next step to move from, standing to taking steps, you can do that, but I love you when you're standing, and I love you when you're stepping, and I love you if you're walking. Yeah. All of these things don't change who you are and how worthy you are. Your value and your worth come from nothing that you do, but just who you are.
Absolutely.
But Ellie is always like, I'm going to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, and we praise her along the whole way.
Is she pretty competitive?
Extremely. Extremely. Sometimes I'm like, Ellie, you can't hit that ball off the tee. And she says, oh, yeah, I can, and then does it. So, like, I can use her competitiveness to make her work a little harder in her therapies. But, yeah, she's extremely competitive.
Yeah. Well, last thing. One of the things, as Go Shout Love, we kind of have our goal is twofold. One is to just give a platform for families to share their story and allow people to engage and learn and grow and then rally behind and support just through words of encouragement. But then the second part is to do the best that we can to raise some resources. What are some areas where if somebody was able to help, what were some areas financially that Ellie needs?
I would say our two biggest would be a wheelchair van and then intensive therapy. The wheelchair van, so right now Ellie is 5.5 and she's 45 pounds. And I have to lift her into a car seat. And imagine lifting a 45-pound sack of potatoes because Ellie is not assisting me in any way, which is fine. But, you are lifting, you are positioning, you are doing that into a car seat and then lifting her out. And then her wheelchair also weighs about 50 pounds, lifting that in and out of the car. And being a single parent, I do 100% of that. There is not a spouse who splits that with me. Sure. Whether that's 50-50, 75-25, it is 100% on my shoulders, literally, and my back. And she's very heavy to lift in and out, and I don't ever want her to think that she can't do something, can't be in the community, can't be in the world because mom isn't able to lift her, that she is somehow a physical burden to me. Yeah. So a wheelchair van would allow Ellie to live the freest of life. So she would able to stay in her wheelchair and roll herself, or she can roll herself because she wants to this right now, and then lock her into the van and stay in her wheelchair as I'm driving and then can roll her out. So there's twofold. It helps me as a parent to be able to care for her, being her sole caregiver for long term because I'm not straining parts of my body. And two, then Ellie's able to have the independence of like just being in a car in her wheelchair. We can go out and we can do a lot more than we're doing now because, I have to be careful, kind of plan out what we're doing. So a wheelchair van would give her freedom and mobility and independence. And then, other people can then take her out because right now I don't want to expect somebody to lift a 50-pound kid and a 50-pound wheelchair in and out of a van. Right. She could go out with her grandparents. She could go out with her friends. And other people can take her out besides me because I would feel safe for them just rolling into there. A wheelchair van in total, some of them are like $40,000 to $60,000. So it is extremely expensive. Yeah. But it would be for Ellie's entire life. Right. It's not it's a one purchase. Yeah. It's a big purchase. And secondly, intensive therapy because Ellie is so motivated to sit independently and to, take steps in her walker, and to gain more skills to move her forward. And intensive therapy is extremely expensive. Yeah. Some of it is like $200 an hour. And if she were to do like a month, that would be $6,000 or $7,000. But these things would give her the skills to use in school.
Right.
And Ellie I don't think Ellie sees herself as having a disability. She sees herself as any other kid. And she, wants to be out playing with her friends. And I think she would, it would make her so much more joyful if she could be up in her gait trainer, playing soccer with her friends, and intensive therapy can help her get there to gain new skills, to gain, new things that she can use later in her life when she's an adult. Because the platform is really when you're young, but being a single parent, it's a sole income. And I haven't been able to work in the last year because of Ellie's surgeries. And she went from having pneumonia to fracturing her leg to breaking her leg to hip surgery all within 6 months. So it doesn't stop. Like there's no way for me to work. And it sometimes makes me really sad to think that like, because I'm a single parent, she isn't being able to have like, all of these things that she desires, like intensive therapy and a wheelchair van and, a new, all this adaptive equipment because it's one income, it's one caregiver, which I don't ever want to complain about because Ellie is worth it all. But that's the reality. Like, I want to be raw in the reality that, like, being a single parent to a child with 100%, she relies on me for everything. Right. It's hard.
Yeah.
Not just in the physical sense, emotional sense, all of that. It's a big thing. And I don't ever talk about that around her because I never want her to think that she is a burden or a negativity or, she's causing me stress and not sleeping and all of these things. But it is the reality when she's not around. I will say that.
Sure.
That it's hard to be a single parent.
Yeah.
Not because she is special needs, because it's hard to be a single parent to a typically developing child.
Yep.
It's just hard to be a single parent in America in general. So it has nothing to do with her disability.
Sure.
But yeah.
There was one other thing I was going to ask, and I think I forgot what it was. Oh, so she is 5.5 now, right?
Yeah.
And so, 5.5. And is she able to go to school, or what will that look like?
She starts school on Monday. Okay. So I guess when you hear this, she'll have been in school.
Yeah.
She went.
Does that make mom nervous?
She's really excited. Her classroom is 5 boys and her, and they call her the queen. So she went to summer school and they were calling her the queen, the queen, the queen, because she's the only girl. And I said, we do not need to inflate her ego any more than it already is. But she's so excited. And I know that school is going to be amazing for her. Her teachers and her therapists there are very, very excited to have her. And she's going to gain so much independence going to school. And she's in a full-time, full-day school. So she's going to be gone from me for a long time, which will make me sad, but she'll be excited.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm thinking like, oh, it just won't come. She won't I don't know.
Well, you probably need to schedule a week of
sleeping,
a couple naps a day.
Yes.
Probably. And then you can think about that.
Yes, I'm giving myself at least a week
Good for you.
to decompress after a long year and a long hip surgery recovery and all of that. But I'll be very anxious to pick her up from school every day. And then she's going to start riding the bus. Like, she's just growing so fast.
I know we've gone long, so I don't want to go. We've completely abandoned those questions, but I just am so grateful that you've allowed us to come and hear your story and hear Ellie's story, and we're so excited. I know our community is going to love getting to meet her, and so thanks for letting us come. And how can people, if they want to connect with you online, how can people connect with you?
So Ellie's Instagram is @LifeWithEllieGirl.
Okay.
And Ellie, I post a lot of Ellie. It's all Ellie. So if you
all Ellie all the time.
It is all Ellie all the time, day and night. And then I write a blog at lifewithelliegrace.com, and that'll have like our backstory, and you'll be able to see Ellie throughout the years. Whereas Instagram, I post every single day of Ellie.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would love connecting with other special needs parents and, anybody who would want to learn more about Ellie and how amazing she is, because she's pretty cool.
We think so too. Thanks, Rebecca. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep shouting love.